Hey guys, welcome back to Deepak's Daily Reading. Again, reading a book today by Chris Van Tulleken, Ultra Processed People, another chapter 12 specifically, where he talks about ultra processed food smells funny. So some really interesting statistics in this actual chapter. So there's a misnomer that, for example, animals tend to have a better sense of smell than humans, which they do when it comes to range detection and also perhaps depth of smell. But when it comes to breadth and distinguishing different types of smells, apparently the science shows that we can individually detect up to 1 trillion compounds. And I remember that because it was so crazy for me to hear 1 trillion. So we are, for example, much better at distinguishing the different types of fruits, as an example, based upon smell, as compared to animals, as well as different types of excrement, i.e., dog poo, human poo, rotten food. So when it comes to distinguishment, we are, in terms of our olfactory sensory perception, number one in the animal kingdom, or as far as at least as man has done research, of course, because we're blinded by the edges of our knowledge. So that was really interesting to hear and understand, and also then therefore impact the way the problem we have in society right now, with the fact that we use smell to understand actual nutritional value of food. Because there's, for example, within, I forget which food it was in, but specific, like phenol something, there's a specific compound that's vital. It's an amino acid and it has a particular smell. So we can, through smell, sense if a fruit or vegetable has actually got specific nutritional value. And because of industrialized food processing and the way that we're reconfiguring the chemical profile of foods, and there's thousands of systems, or rather profiles or chemicals, let's say, within food that are fundamentally destroyed vis-a-vis processing. And then all we try to bring back in is the smell through chemicals, but it's killed all of its nutritional value. But also we are, or rather food manufacturers are trying to trick our senses inadvertently into ultimately bringing back the smell of, for example, fresh apples, when really they're not fresh because they're sprayed with pesticides. They are put in food soil that grows year round through accelerated growth processes and whatever else happens from a packaging perspective. And they use chemicals to reintroduce that smell of fresh, for example, Braeburns, but it's tricking us because it doesn't contain the same nutrient profile, because that's why the smell has disappeared. So they, through industrial processing, killed off natural smell, but then brought it back in through flavoring, but then that actually destroys the actual chemical profiles of these foods, and it's messing with our senses. So there's a book called The Dorito Effect that I'm going to read that talks about this at scale by another professor. And it, again, was just incredibly interesting to hear and understand this. And again, goes back to an understanding of why food is so messed up today. And one of the crazy examples they gave of this was amongst cows. Obviously, on the evolutionary chain, much less developed than humans, but there was an issue on a farm of cows being, I think, what do you call it, malnourished, even though they were given access to the food that they would traditionally eat. But because of, again, industrialized harvesting and scale, these foods have lost their nutritional value, and they were giving birth to stillborn calves, and then they were giving cows this nutrient mix, fundamentally like a multivitamin. But the problem is that because of the matrix of the chemicals and the profile, it doesn't actually get absorbed by the cows' bodies in the same way. But nonetheless, they're eating crap loads of this actual mix to get, it was a multivitamin mix. Now, one day when they were crossing the farm, one of the farmers had zinc in his actual sack, which he was going to mix with the other minerals to create the mix for the cows. But he was mauled by the cows because actually, as it turned out, they needed a specific amount of zinc and they were able to detect that. And the problem with the mix was they're taking in copper and zinc. I don't know if it was copper and zinc, but there was a small element of, maybe it was calcium actually, small element of zinc in the natural mix, which was, and the calcium was diminishing the ability to absorb the zinc that was present in that mix. But they were automatically able to detect what they needed, and they were able to recover their own nutrient deficiency through just garbling this zinc actual independent single mix, if you will. So it's quite incredible how we've been evolutionary, or biologically evolved over time to understand stuff like this, and how messed up food is today. So yeah, really interesting. Hey guys, it's Deepak Shukla here. I am huge on listening to books on Audible. So if you're interested in getting all of the insights as I discover them through the course of all the books I read, please do comment, like, and of course subscribe so that you get notified every time we release a video. Thank you so much, and I hope to hear from you soon.